Hi, this is Gayle from BERNINA of Naperville, and here we are. It's Footloose Friday. And you know what? These little videos and tutorials are really fun for me because it's just a way to get to play and show off our featured foot or feet every month. And this month, it's the number 46 Decor Pintuck foot. Now, the Decor stitch Pintuck foot, it sounds really fancy. Well, that's because it is. And we're going to do all kinds of things with the double needle, from decorative stitches with a double needle, corded pintucks, and then straight up just how to use the machine and what makes it so special. So let's dig into our interactive presentation deck that you're going to get if you sign up for this month's session. So I mentioned if you sign up at BERNINAofNaperville.com and search Footloose Friday, you will get this interactive presentation deck that I'm working from right now. And in there will be information about the project, links to templates, all kinds of stuff. So the way that we set this up is normally when you are playing around and you're making swatches and you're practicing using a foot and things like that, you kind of either keep your swatches or your practice pieces in a drawer, or you throw them in the bin, right? So this is meant to be a little project that can help you display what you've worked on and then build onto it for however many of these Footloose Friday projects that you want to do. So we've designed a pennant. It's a little triangle, and then there's a casing on top so you can feed ribbon or string or whatever through to display it in your sewing room. And the template is always the same size. You can download it right here by clicking the link. It's $15 if you want to get this presentation deck. I think it's well worth it because you'll see as we go through the presentation, we also give you some goodies. So this is our template. It's meant to be printed and then stuck together at the attachment line there. And that is how big we'll base our work off of every month. And what are you going to learn? Well, you learn something different every month. And this month, like I mentioned in the intro, we're going to learn how to use the 46C Pintuck Decor Stitch foot. This is also where you would have a link to our BERNINA of Naperville YouTube video, but you're watching that right now. You're watching it for free on our YouTube channel, but sometimes, you come across these things, you stumble across them or whatever, and then you forget where you saw the video. So we give you a link to it to make sure that you don't lose it, right? And so back to this 46 foot. So this is best used with a 3mm wide double needle. And unlike the other Pintuck feet that BERNINA has, which is 30, 31, 32, and 33, foot 46C allows for 9mm wide stitching. It allows for wider spaces between your pintucks so you can do some embellishment or decorative stitches. And the intervals of the channels are a 1/4 inch. So you can do a 1/4 inch or 1/2 inch apart between your pintucks. And that 1/2 inch apart is truly perfect for the 9mm wide stitch machines, but it also is a nice canvas if you don't even have a 9mm wide machine and your machine does 5.5mm stitching, and we'll talk about that in just a moment. You can also add stitching in between the pintucks with your double needle, with one needle threaded with a light color and one needle threaded with a dark color. And we'll go into that as well. So I hope you have a lot of fun this month with this process. We've given you some links to other tutorials. So for instance, we made a Pintuck foot video a long time ago. And I go and I take you through all the supplies you need. I talk about all the different sizes of the different feet and things like that. So you might find that link helpful. In addition to our videos, BERNINA International has a Pintuck foot teaser. There's also how to use corded Pintuck attachment on the BERNINA 8 series. So I'm going to take you through that too, but just thought you'd want to see the BERNINA of America end. In addition, BERNINA of America has a download instruction page right here that you can link to learn more about the number 46C foot. The supplies, well, fabric first, right? Anything goes. I recommend a lightweight and a light color fabric. I'm using a cream and a blue because I'm working on an 880 plus and the 990. Stabilizer needs to be heavyweight cutaway stabilizer, and that's just because that's the oomph that we give our pennant so that our pennant will hang nice and straight, but it's also a nice canvas for you to just play around and try your decorative stitches. We're using several spools of thread because you're going to need 2 spools of thread. One you wind a bobbin of and you put that in the bobbin, and then 1 thread through one needle and 1 thread through the other needle. And then you're going to need 1 spool of isocord thread to suit your taste, top and bottom. And you're going to need some sort of filler thread like coordinate thread, 8-weight pearl cotton, razzle, 8-weight rayon, or something like that. In the video, I actually am using 8-weight rayon for my cording. And this does not go through the needle. It actually is going to be inserted to give your pintuck some 3D texture. You're going to need either a 3mm wide double needle. That's the recommended double needle for this project or this foot from Bernina. And there are ballpoint, universal, and denim varieties of this foot. I also used a size 80 2.5mm double needle. I believe that's the one that I have loaded up on my Bernina 880. For heavier fabric, though, consider the 3mm in size 90, so you can really get through all of those layers. For your Bernina 990, you're going to need the yellow high-tension bobbin case, which comes with your machine, and also the yellow high-tension bobbin case is what you're going to need for any Bernina 4 series through to the 7 series, and then also the 990. Remember, if you have a Bernina 880 Plus or an 880 or an 830 or an 820, they have that bobbin case that can be adjusted with the special tool, which, of course, I'm going to show you in this tutorial. So, like every other Footloose Friday, we do have a special on our foot, and you use a special code that you'll get if you sign up and get the actual presentation deck. You'll be able to see that code, and the code you will use at checkout to receive 25% off your number 46C Pintuck Decor Stitch foot. And this link right there will take you right to the item on our Bernina of Naperville website. So 5.5mm versus 9mm. This month, the 46C foot is for any Bernina model. It's coded in order for you to be able to stitch the 9mm stitches, but it will work fine with the 5.5mm models as well. And I want to show you over here is an example that I made a little bit using the 5mm capabilities, but then also the 9mm. So here I've done a little 5mm width channel that's about 1/4 of an inch. And then I did a triple stitch down the middle. That is about the widest stitch you're going to be able to do if you have a Bernina machine with the 5.5mm capabilities. Over here on the right, I have a feather stitch that's been inserted in those channels. Now, I was able to reduce the width of that stitch and then move my needle position, but this was using my 9mm wide machine. And that's because I have, remember, 9mm wide, I get a lot more width out of those stitches. Then the checkerboard here was stitched in between these channels, like you see here, with 5mm wide maximum. So you can see that you could make something totally awesome with your 5.5mm foot. So before we talk about our machine setup and everything, let's have a look, an up-close look at this number 46C foot. Let's take a minute to look at the benefits of this number 46C foot. First of all, it's got these 5 grooves under it like this, and they're perfectly designed to go with a 2.5mm wide or 3mm wide double needle. Secondly, it's clear so we can see where we're going, right? And each channel here is 1/4 of an inch apart. If we skip one, it's 1/2 an inch apart. And it really works quite nicely with the 9mm wide stitching or even the narrower 5.5mm stitching. And then we also have a little screw in the back where we can add a seam guide if we wanted to space our pintucks or our channels apart. So to set up your machine to do the double needle with the number 46C pintuck foot, you're simply going to first select the number 46C foot. So we go to our presser foot icon. Then we search number 46. And then it appears here. Then we're going to select our double needle in our security program here. And I'm using the 3mm. And now I'm going to close. And now you can see there my double needle lined up with my channels. So now this is the machine setup for the 990. Let's have a look at the machine setup on my 880 Plus. The first thing on the 880 Plus is we're going to change to our foot. And then we're going to select our needle. On my 880 Plus, I'm using a 2.5mm needle. And there you can see that one. Now, it's important to talk about threading. And the first thing we're going to do, since we're already here at our 880, we're going to thread it for a double needle. So I'm going to thread my thread on the back spool and bring that thread to the back of that little metal piece that sticks up, just there. Then I'm going to put it through all of the guides in front of the needle and use my manual needle threader to thread my left needle. Now, we told the 880 that we have a double needle in, so it's not going to allow us to use that little robot needle threader. Now I'm going to thread the other needle, and I'm bringing that one to the front spool support, as well as placing my thread in front of that little metal piece that sticks up there. And then once I get it through my threading path, I go through my guides, and now I'm going to manually thread this right needle, or the right side of the double needle, using my manual needle threader. Then it's time to press the bright button on the machine, and even though the needle threader presenter is not moving, it's wiggling the thread take-up lever into the right position to seat that thread. And now your Bernina 880 comes with this special attachment here that screws right into your left part of the two screws that are right here. And it's really like a little straw. And that little straw is where we are going to thread our cording for our corded pintucks. And I'm using this rayon 8-weight thread, which is called Razzle from Wonderfill. And I even make like a little thread cradle to thread this. Once upon a time, I had a little wire. I don't know where that is at this moment, so I wanted to show you how you can use your regular household items. And then another thing I like to do is hold my cording on my knee lever, just so it doesn't run all over the floor, right? And then another thing I like to do is open my bobbin area. And before I put my bobbin in, I'm going to turn my hand wheel to expose my little dots. And righty-tighty, lefty-loosey on this, and we want to tighten this. So I'm going to tighten this by 2 clicks. And you can see how the dot is now over instead of lined up. And that just means that I've tightened it. So when I want to go back to regular sewing, I use my same tool and I click it over back into position. And if there's ever any confusion as to where your specific dot should be lined up on your 880, reference the technician's notes here. So mine is perfect. The sweet spot is actually perfect right at the center dot. Yours may be dotted somewhere else on your machine. Okay, once I've made that adjustment, I'm going to close my door and let my bobbin reseat itself. Then I'm going to open the door and insert my bobbin. And I have all the same thread in my bobbin and in my needles on both needles. I'm using Metler 50 weight silk finish thread. Now you can also thread for embroidery to give it just a little bit more tension, and then cut. And look what came out of my machine. I'm embarrassed. I use this a lot. Okay, not the fuzz. I use my machine a lot. So I'm just going to do a little test here. I haven't even marked anything. I'm just kind of trying out my corded pintuck here. And so the way that this works is that cord is going to go under or in between my 2 needles and my bobbin thread. Now, it's a little puckery because I think I actually turned my bobbin case too tight. So let's open it up. So the way this foot is designed is now we have the choice of 2 channels to align our first stitched pintuck with. Here is where we stitched in that center channel, but now I can move it over to either this channel to stitch another row. This is a little skinny row, or I can put it in the widest channel here because there are 5 channels. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, like that. So I'm going to go for the widest one. And now my goal is to line everything up right in that groove. And now, after you create some rows, and I'm going to make a few more, then you're going to stitch a decorative stitch using the foot, but our standard sewing needle. But I also wanted to show you what it looks like when you add a darker color under the white. You get like this shadow look like that. All right, so now let's do this on the 990. First and foremost, on the 990, we're going to insert the bobbin into our high tension bobbin case that comes with the 990. Then we're going to remove the single needle and insert, just like we did on our 880, our double needle. flat piece goes to the back. Okay, then we're going to tell our machine that we're using 46C. And we're going to change our foot. Okay, so for threading, I'm going to start with my left spool here, place it on the pin and go to the very top guide here. Then this guide under the pre-tensioner, and then with my presser foot up, I'm going to make sure that my thread goes to the left side of this little floppy piece right there. Get it behind the thread take up, then thread it behind this guide and this guide and through the needle. Now with the other piece, we're going to go here, here, and you have this other guide here. You might as well give that a try to help keep your threads separated, like this. Then we're going to go to the pre-tensioner back there. Then we're going to go to the right side of this floppy guy right there, making sure that our presser foot is up. Then we go under, behind the thread take up again, then behind our guides, and through our right needle. Now, some of you may have gone your whole lives without realizing that this hole right here was for cording, was for doing corded pintucks. So what we're going to do is we're going to open our bobbin area and leave your bobbin door open. We're going to turn our bobbin sensors off by going into our settings and to the machine side under monitoring functions, and turn the bobbin thread indicator so that the green is a white circle. While I'm already at the machine, I'm going to tell it that I've got the 3mm double needle. And now I already have my coordinate on my knee lever like I did on the 880. But now I want to thread or feed my thread. You can see where my hand is. I'm feeding my thread up through that part of my needle plate, and then I'm going to go through this hole, not your needle plate hole, but your actual hole right before it, and then slip your needle plate back on and hold your coordinate to the back. Now let's give it a try. I've got my swatch piece here that we tried over on our 880, so now let's have a look here. I'm going to just start, since I already have lines already there, I'm just going to go ahead and start by lining it up right there like so. Now you can see what was done on my 990 based on the thread that's in my machine. And then you can see the different ones, but I think it's a little bit easier to thread the 990 with your double needle.
So if you're choosing to do a light color pennant, I recommend just simply placing your light color fabric on top of your template and just tracing it with a water-soluble marking pen. And the reason why I do this is because I want to leave a little border around it.
because obviously the tucks shrink the fabric up just a little bit. And this way we can kind of just pin tuck the area that we want to, but still be able to kind of like evenly trim the template at the end. So if you are using a darker fabric or something that you really can't see through as well, then I recommend that you cut the template out and then trace the template on top of the fabric with the same water-soluble marking pen or light pen if indeed it is a much darker fabric. You're going to want to reserve at least 3.5 inches by 13 inches for the casing. And we do the casing instructions in just about every Footloose Friday, so you can find them in the presentation deck that you get when you sign up for this program. So I thought I'd try something fun with the 990, and I'm going to do curved pin tucks. So all that means is I'm going to start in the corner like this. I traced the pennant template onto my blue fabric, and now I'm just going to simply do a gentle curve along my piece like this. I'm going to stop, lift my presser foot, leave a little bit of a long tail, smooth things out a little bit like this, and now I'm going to align this to that furthest one. Now, but I want to do my wider stitches, so I'm just going to let this curve like so, lift and cut, kind of smooth it out with your hands before you do the next row. And then of course, if you want to come down this side, then you can use the furthest groove on the left side of the double knot. Once you cover your entire piece with the echoed curved pin tucks, then all you have to do is pick a decorative stitch, change your thread color if you want, and change to the single needle. Don't forget to make that change on your machine itself, and then fill in that channel with whatever decorative stitch you want. All right, once we're all threaded, we need to determine which channel we're gonna start doing a decorative stitch in. And there are no rules here, ladies and gentlemen. You can do whatever you want. But now we can see that I can put my foot down and line it up in those channels just there. So I wanna do a floral stitch. I wanna do a stitch with just some fun leaves or something in it. I picked stitch number 141. And I've also threaded my machine with isocord thread in a light blue color. Now, of course, you want to remember to turn your bobbin thread sensor back on if you turned it off. All right, I'm going to hop on over here to this other channel, go in between these.
And you can see you really want to just keep your eye on guiding these pieces. And the stabilizer that we have under here, it's going to stay because remember, with our pennants, we use kind of a heavy cutaway stabilizer that stays in there. But if you were doing this on something where you don't want it to be as stiff, you could use tearaway stabilizer at this point. And now, as you can see, I'm doing every other channel. And now I'm going to just align these guys here. And I'm not bothering stopping and starting pattern end or pattern begin or whatever. I'm not trying to make these all be perfect. Once you have completed the every other row or however you want to embellish this, you're going to lay the paper template down, making sure that, you know, you've got it kind of sort of near the lines that you drew. And then I use a straight edge and cut. And you have to be careful that the template doesn't slip on you like it did on me. See, there it is, going with my ruler. So I just repositioned it a little bit, got it closer to that original line. And then I'm just cutting a little strip, and then I'm going to finish cutting up this pennant. You have enough fabric if you used a fat quarter. I used fat quarters for this. So you have enough to be able to do the lining out of the same fabric and do your casing. So much like many other pennants that we've made already, you're going to stick just a plain blue piece of fabric that doesn't have any pintucks on the back side of the pennant, cut it to the same size as the front, the same shape of the pennant, and then do a simple zigzag stitch around the bottom edges of the pennant, and then make your casing and attach that. And then it's up to you if you want to do another one. I actually did the white version on my 880. You saw me do that one first. So I decided that I would just do vertical lines on that one and then go in between with double needle stitching. Now I did do the double needle decorative stitching on my 990, and I threaded up like a dark blue on one side and a light blue on the other. And I just centered that pintuck foot down the middle and stitched every other row with that technique. I changed to a single needle, and then I just did another little heirloomy type stitch in between the channels. And I thought that one came out great. I backed it, stitched it down, and added the casing as well. All right, what do you think? These were really fun, and I hope that you will take the time to make something more than a pennant with this technique. I mean, it's great as an insertion on a blouse, it's great on a pillow, or anything else. Your imagination is really your only limitation, right, kids? Well, if you like this video and you want to see more things, don't forget to check out our Bernina of Naperville YouTube channel. It's easy. It's just youtube.com/Bernina of Naperville, and there you can see over 500 tutorials, fun stuff, silly stuff, the works from Bernina of Naperville. But until then, happy pin tucking, everybody.